a no-brainer as far as knowing the law, making sure that you have all of that safety culture in place to prohibit yourself from entering into that risk. Like, why as an owner would you not have or abide by whatever the statutes are for that state with law and safety and everything else? Because if I was a gym owner, I would say, hey, I want this book and I want to know what I need to do so that I don't fall into that. I mean, what a headache. I mean, geez Louise. So yeah, that's really interesting. And that leads us into like insurance, because I mean, you're going to, like you said, people make mistakes. You're going to have things go awry, even probably with all of the safety measurements in place. And what would you, I mean, I guess what would be common insurance mistakes that owners might fall into, or fitness professionals even, in owning a facility?
Yeah, another really good question. So, once that negligence lawsuit has been filed against you, first of all, you want to be able to defend it either through a defense like the waiver defense or the primary assumption of risk defense. And there might be other defenses as well that might be applicable. But if those defenses don't work and you're found liable, for the injury, your best bet then is to have your adequate insurance, liability insurance. So for a management perspective, it'd be really important for managers to review those insurance contracts very, very carefully. There's some cases in the text where we talk about where the managers really didn't read the contract, and there were exclusions in that contract. And then that ended up kind of hitting them on the back end, so to speak, because they didn't carefully review those exclusions within that insurance contract. And so you want to make sure that your insurance contract covers all of your programs and services, first of all, that you provide. And any time that you develop, let's say, a new facility, like a climbing wall, or a new service of some type, that's something new that you want to do, like outdoor fitness or whatever it is that you're going to do that's maybe new, you would always want to check with your insurance provider to make sure that that new facility or that new activity is covered in that policy. And if not, you might need a rider or an addendum or whatever to that policy. Now, for fitness professionals, we really recommend that they have their own professional liability insurance. And if the management does not provide that for them, we highly recommend that they purchase it on their own. And really, I think managers should require that their fitness professionals, their trainers, instructors, have that professional liability insurance. And it's even best if they provide it for them and pay for it. But if not, professionals can obtain their professional liability through a professional organization. If they're a member of an organization like ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, or other professional organizations, they can actually obtain that professional liability insurance at a very low cost because it's a group plan versus an individual plan. So that's what we really recommend. Those are a couple of recommendations related to, insurance from a management perspective and a professional perspective.
Yeah,
I have a question. You brought up the trainer, the case study about the trainer with, where they broke the ankle. Well, I know there's some gyms out there like, well, I don't technically have trainers. I 1099 my trainers where they just pay me rent every month. I'm assuming can the gym still be sued even if it's not the gym's trainer and the gym is just paying rent to train at that facility?
Well, that's another really good question. And we cover a lot of that in Chapter 5 on employment issues. I'm thinking what you're saying, Anthony, is that they're hired as an independent contractor versus an employee. And so
some places the trainer actually has to pay the gym to work there, and they can instead of having your own personal training studio or whatnot, some gyms will actually sell like monthly rent, and you could come whenever you want with whoever you want. You could use all my equipment
So it's a contract. The management has a contract with an independent contractor, to come and use the facility on a monthly fee of some type or whatever. So what if that contractor, hurts somebody in your facility? So that's the question, right? So couple of things. First of all, in that kind of scenario, management really doesn't provide much control over what that person does or doesn't do. Whereas with an employee, you have quite a bit of what we call behavioral control. So the IRS makes this kind of determination whether a person is an employee or an independent contractor. And so if a manager has a lot of behavioral control over an individual, the IRS would say that's an employee, not an independent contractor. Even if you call them an independent contractor, they might not really be an independent contractor. And some health clubs have gotten into trouble because of that, because they misclassified their individuals that work for them. In this other scenario that you have, it would probably be, the contractor would be liable, okay, for an injury to a client, for example. Generally speaking, that would be the rule. However, think of the scenario where the trainer is having the client work on a piece of equipment that has not been well maintained according to the specifications. Then who is liable? Could both parties be liable, okay, for an injury that occurred on a piece of equipment that the facility owns and maintains? Okay, so that gets into, again, some legal issues where, these contracts that management is putting together definitely should be reviewed by a competent lawyer and thinking through all of these various scenarios to help protect the management, as well. And of course, if somebody gets hurt on a piece of equipment, because of poor maintenance, the general liability insurance would maybe kick in. But again, if they don't have any maintenance records, this is another issue with equipment maintenance that comes up quite a bit in cases where, they know they're supposed to be maintaining their exercise equipment, but they have no documentation that it's being done. So there was one case against a health club where, the defendant said, oh yeah, we do the maintenance, we're doing it. And the court said, okay, show us the evidence where you have done the maintenance. And they had no records or no documents. And so the court basically said, well, you have no records, no documents, therefore you didn't do it. Okay. Therefore, you failed. You were negligent in not carrying out that responsibility. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but a lot of factors, I think, to think through with your legal counsel on any kind of contract, that you're setting up.
I've already learned, like, if you're going to do your own maintenance, make sure you're keeping books, because I guarantee you a ton of people do not do that. So there's already a couple things that I've learned on here that I hope if whoever's watching can learn. And there's so much more to learn in her book. But Natalia, do you have any other questions you wanted to add on to that, to the insurance?
Well, no, I was just going to ask you, because you had said something about the contract between the owner and, say, the independent contractor, that they would. So you're saying that as a gym owner, if I were going to rent space to a trainer, that I should have them sign a contract as well in order to, would that make a difference? Is that kind of also what you had said, where you want that agreement between them?
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever the arrangement is or the agreement is between two parties, it's always best to have that in writing, and where both parties, sign the contract, and again, having it reviewed by legal counsel. Yeah.
So even if they did, say I was a trainer and I'm renting space from a gym, but it was, and we signed this contract with the gym owner, and then, I'm working out at whatever piece of equipment and the equipment was not maintained. So in that regard, even if I had signed this contract, the gym owner is going to be responsible too, right?
Yes. Yes.
Everyone's suing each other. The client's suing you, you're suing the owner.
And there's been some cases like that, where there's these, multiple lawsuits, and one injury, but they're suing this party and this party and this party. And so, but yeah, that can happen, and so the gym owner could be liable for not properly maintaining the exercise equipment, and so they might be suing, the injured party might be suing, multiple, individuals or groups. Yeah. Uh-huh.